Hello, everyone. I am Kim Trathen, and this is the next segment of Girls Talk Business. Today, I'm going to have Jill Emanuel, who is a financial coach, joining me. So I'm just going to give her a couple minutes to jump on the live. I feel like I haven't done this in a while. We didn't have an episode last week because I was way up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan on vacation, so I didn't have any cell service. And it was great to get away, but gosh, it feels like it's been a while now. So I'm really excited to have Jill on today to talk about money, finances, and business. So Jill, when you join, go ahead and leave a comment so that I know you're on here, and then I can add you to the live. Oh, great, Jill's here. All right, I'm going to add you. Jill, you will get... Jill, drop me a comment and let me know if you're on your phone. I don't have the option to add you, but I need you need to be on your phone for me to actually be able to add you to the live. So if you need to switch devices a minute, go ahead and switch, but you need to be on your phone. And if you have it horizontal, that works best because then we're split screen. And I'm going to quickly check if I can go ahead and share this on my personal page. So Jill is going to join me. Hi, Jacqueline. I'm so glad you're on. Jill is going to join today to talk about money and, you're fine, Jill, and making that financial switch from an employee where, although you could lose your job at any time, things like that definitely happen to people. When you are receiving that stable, so I like to put that in quotes, that stable paycheck every week or every other week from your employer, there can be a lot of reassurance when people receive that. And when you switch to being an entrepreneur and your income is more sporadic, there can be a lot of distress and anxiety, especially when you're in the process of switching from an employee, if you've always been paid as an employee, and switching over to that entrepreneur mindset. So I'm really excited to hear Jill's thoughts on that today. She's going to get on the right device here, and then I will be able to add her to the live. Jacqueline, remind me where you're watching from. I think you're over in the UK maybe. If you're catching this on replay, please drop a comment and let me know that you're catching the replay. I love to see how far the Girls Talk Business series span, and I love to know people watch it live or catch the replay. So I really want these to be interactive. And new on today's segment, I am going to start incorporating a little bit of a different closing into the Girls Talk Business series. So I messaged poor Jill about 20 minutes ago and said, hey, want to start this today? So what we're going to do from now on Girls Talk Business is, like before, I'll introduce my guest and we'll talk about the topic of the day, and she'll share her story, words of wisdom and things like that. And then at the end of it, I'm going to ask each guest to share their top two, which are going to be their top two tips for aspiring or early stage entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to see what kinds of tips different people have, because every single person's journey is unique and different. And so I think you can get a lot of really different takeaways from all the different guests of what their top two tips are. And I'm really excited to see what people come up with for this. So Jill is the champion and said that we could definitely start that today. Oh, Jacqueline, back from Jamaica. I love it. Wow. Okay, I'm going to try to bring Jill on now. Oh, boy. All right, Jill, are you on your phone? I still don't have the option to add you to the live. Oh, Amanda, thank you for joining, girl. I haven't chatted with you in a little bit, too. Jill, can you drop me a comment and let me know if you are on your phone now? Oh, and Jenny from the UK. See, this is so much fun. I love seeing where everybody is watching from. For those of you that are on right now, well, Jill and I try to figure out why I can't add her. For those of you that are on right now with us, will you share if you feel comfortable? Because I know money and issues and struggling, it can be really, really personal, which is one of the reasons why I was so excited to do this episode. I feel like it is liberating and freeing, and it's really important to talk about money. I'm here. Hang on, I'm going to try to. Hey, I have the option to bring Jill on camera. Jill, you'll get a notification in a minute that you just need to accept, and then there you are.
Yay! I did it!
Welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I totally didn't know I had to be on my phone. See how often I get joined in.
Well, now you know. I should have rephrased that in the email. I think I've been putting it in. Oh, but you know what? It's because of we did a little switcheroo this week. So usually I've been putting it in the calendar invitations for people, and this one was a little switcheroo and done differently. So I apologize for that.
We're good.
I may have missed telling you, but you are on
Hi,
now.
Lolo.
Hi, Lolo.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Too. Yes, we have a few people on. So please share with us where you're watching from. We love to see how far this goes. And Jill, I know that you were running around there to actually be able to join me. So I was just starting
I know, I was like, where do I have a tripod?
Oh, no. Well, you could have just held it. I think Sammy had to hold her phone the other week when she was on. So I
found one. It works.
Oh, good, good. I was just starting to talk a little bit about how stressful it can be for people and how I'm glad that people are joining us to talk about money, because I was saying that, one, I feel like there's not enough conversations that happen around money, and that when people are struggling, or even if you're not struggling, if you're just not where you wish you were, it can be really hard to talk about those things. So I'm really, really excited that you're coming on the show today to talk about this. And I also just feel that it can be difficult when somebody decides they want to be an entrepreneur and they've always been paid as an employee. And I don't think that, sometimes people don't think that through ahead of time of how they're going to make that financial change from that. And I explained earlier, stable. I put that in quotes because you could lose your job anytime, but it feels like stable income and moving to that entrepreneurial, little bit more sporadic income. So I'm really excited that you're here. If you can first start out by telling everybody that's watching this what you do and what the heck is a financial coach.
Sure. That's always the question, isn't it? No one has heard of financial coaching. It's a relatively new industry, although we've been around for, over 10 years, probably, different financial coaches that started kind of early in the game. But when people hear financial coach, they typically think financial advisor, which are two different things. So a financial advisor is someone that helps with your investments, your long-term retirement planning, insurance, things like that. And me, as a financial coach, I help people figure out, what do you actually do with your money today? Like, we're talking about the money that comes into your bank account right now, today, when it's payday, or as you're running a business, as your revenues are coming in. What should you be doing with your money so you always know that it's the right thing to do, that it's a good thing to do, that you can feel confident in it, that you know it's moving you towards the goals that you have in life, and that it's not going to wind up with you with a pile of debt or feeling regret or feeling stress or buyer's remorse. So I help people really figure out how they can use their money in the best way so that they always feel really great about what they're doing.
Oh, that's so amazing. Buyer's remorse. That is really a real thing.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It really is.
And I love that, because I know so many people that have said to me throughout the years, to clarify to everybody, I am not a financial coach. I just geek out on this stuff. I have always loved budgeting and numbers, and I have a whole spreadsheet of all of our bills that we pay, and, a spreadsheet of our retirement savings, and I just geek out on this stuff. But I've had so many people over the years say to me, friends and things like that, that have said, like, well, I don't even know where all of our money goes, but we just never have any. What? How do you not know where your money goes? It makes me panic, being somebody that just naturally does that and sets those things up. But I think that is super, super common, especially if you have somebody where maybe their left brain isn't, maybe they're more right-brained and spreadsheets and looking at numbers. I think some people are truly number phobic, and they just start looking at those numbers and they shut down. And I think they really have no idea where their money is going.
Right. Well, and I like that you said that for you, it's something very natural, right? And for some people, it is, like, managing money, tracking that. It's completely natural. Just like for some people, fitness is very natural. They naturally get up and go run 5 miles in the morning, and they can't imagine living life any other way. Whereas, like, you have to drag me out kicking and screaming if I'm going to go run 5 miles in the morning. Like, I'm not going to do it. So, there's certain things that we're just kind of innately really good at. And the problem is, when we're talking about money, is that when someone is not naturally good at money, there's a lot of shame around it. They don't want to talk about it. they're not willing to talk about it, or they might say, I don't really know where my money is, but then other people are judging them or saying like, well, why not? What's wrong with you? Why can't you figure that out? And they feel stupid and they won't go ask
Yes.
for help because they feel like there's something wrong with them. Whereas like me, if I say I'm not a natural runner, like I am not going to go run 5 miles, I will die. It'll be painful.
I will
like
die.
no one's going to say like, what's wrong with you, Jill? Like, oh, you're a horrible person or whatever. But when it's money, the like dynamic around it is very, very different.
Yes. And I know that we have people on the live right now around the world. So I can't speak to how it is in the rest of the world, but in the United States, and Jill, I feel like you and I have chatted about this before. Around the United States, I feel like our educational system does a huge disservice to all of the kids coming up. I feel like budgeting and things like that should just be part of their curriculum from, kindergarten on up. There are basics of budgeting that everybody from those little years on up could really benefit from. And I so wish that was more ingrained into our curriculum and the educational system, because I think that it would help a lot of those people if it doesn't come naturally. If they had some more of that education early on, then it might help them. But it's kind of like they become an adult and it's like, here you go.
Right. Well, I mean, how it is now is like the burden falls on the parents, right? And so if the parents are very good with money and they've been naturally good at it, know how to communicate all of that, then fantastic. But what happens when you're not someone that's naturally good with it, and then you're kind of propagating all of those behaviors around money onto your children and onto the other people that, you know, are in your circle? And so it is a really huge, I guess, education gap that we have.
Yes.
Where we're not helping that in the education system. And I think because a lot of times educators don't even know where to begin, right? Like there's just so many different things that you hear about money that it's like, where do you even begin? So,
yes. I love it. Jacqueline said we need a rich dad like Robert Kiyosaki.
Heck yes.
Yes, we do. Lolo's a fellow expelled budget nerd over here. I knew that about you, Lolo. I feel like we had a spreadsheet talk before too. Oh, I love it. Oh, Jenny said, I'm terrible at this. Do client work first. That is something too that I feel like, whether it's budgeting or something else in your life or in your business, when it's something that stresses you out to do it, or it's not something that comes natural, it is so easy to always push that down on the list of to-dos. And you'll find everything else under the sun. You may even suddenly feel like you love folding laundry and putting it away if you can avoid doing something that's stressful.
Like I think the baseboards need cleaned or something, right? So
I should probably vacuum out my furnace vents now. Yes, that seems super important.
Yes.
I love it. I want to see what Jacqueline said here, because I think she commented on their financial education. Financial education isn't something learned but needs to be taught. Many don't know. Yes, definitely a gap. Yes, Jacqueline. And then Lolo said, yes, it's so scary to think of the impact we have on our kids with their money mentality. Oh, it so is. So Jill, will you share with everybody, I know you've been vocal about it on your own Facebook group and things like that. Will you share with everybody who catches this video or is watching it live and doesn't yet, will you share a bit of your story, how you came to be a financial coach, what qualifies you to do this, and share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I like to say I am living proof that someone who is not naturally gifted with finances can learn to be very good with them. So I was someone that was not like you at all, Kim. I can't say I wasn't like you at all. I wrote down all of our expenses. I would try to track it. I would spend hours on Saturday mornings, like trying to work a budget. And just, I guess the way that we were living, we weren't ever in alignment with what I was doing. Like the process or the systems that we had tried to implement just never translated into our day-to-day life. Like we always felt like we were failing. We couldn't figure out why we didn't have more money. Kind of like you said, like we both were working professionals, making 6 figures a year, and just I always felt like we were like paycheck to paycheck. We would get to the end of the year and be like, how did we make more this year than ever before? And we still don't have anything left, you know? So it's super frustrating. And I think, you know, my husband and I, we were both kind of spenders, I guess, like not super conscientious about what we were doing. We got married and went on our honeymoon, bought our house, had our first baby, and a lot of those expenses went onto credit cards because we didn't really have all of that. We were, I just graduated college, and so it wound up going on a credit card, and we thought, well, we make really great money, no big deal, we'll pay it off. And we were making payments on it and managing everything. But then, of course, like, you're in the hole already, and it just takes one thing to really push you off the other edge. And that happened to us. My husband wound up unemployed, and he went about 6 months without any real income, and maybe another 6 months with very little, because he had decided to start a business with a friend. So any new entrepreneur knows it takes some time to grow that. We very quickly took our $20,000 in credit card debt and turned it into $50,000. And I mean, when all of that happened, we were trying to be smart, and we said, okay, you lost your job. We'll pull the kids out of daycare. You're going to be with them. You'll be driving less. We'll cut down on that. I'll go back to work full time, because I had been part-time. So I went back to work full time, and they actually needed extra, like, overtime. So I was working about 70 hours a week. I was exhausted, totally emotionally, mentally, physically exhausted.
Everything.
We had two little kids at home at the time. I think they were 2 and 4, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Little ones.
Yeah.
So, it was to say it was a stressful time in life is like such a disservice to how stressful it was.
You hadn't been hitting your breaking point.
There's no words to describe how stressful it was. And, my husband and I felt very disconnected, hopeless, frustrated, angry, not necessarily at each other, but at the situation, at ourselves, at the fact that we found ourselves there. And we got to the point where I was thinking, are we really going to survive this? Is our marriage going to survive? Are we going to be able to keep our house? Are we going to have to file bankruptcy? And it was so devastating to feel like we had found ourselves there, and we're like, we're supposed to be like smart people, right? Like, we're supposed to be like the definition of successful people. And here we are, like, totally over our heads in debt, see no way out, completely frustrated. And we just felt like failures. And it's such a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
And I finally one day broke down and called a girlfriend, bawling my eyes out, because I had to call my husband on the way home from work and tell him, you can't put any gas in the car, no buying any groceries. We have 3 more days until payday, and we are flat broke. And I just thought, how is this our life? And I lost it. I called my girlfriend, crying my eyes out, and she said, I have someone you need to talk to. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of a financial coach. Like, I thought she was referring me to a financial advisor, and I was like, you don't get it. We're broke. Like, we can't invest money right now. Like, I was so confused. Luckily she explained things, right? So we wound up booking that first appointment on a credit card that was nearly maxed out. Because we just knew we couldn't keep doing what we were doing. What we were doing wasn't working.
Something had to change.
Right?
Yes.
Something had to change.
Out of curiosity, what type of money conversations happened in your house growing up? Did your parents have money conversations with you?
I know I look back now and I feel like as a child, our perceptions are very different probably from what is really happening.
Yes,
right? So it's like we perceive one thing, or we learn one thing, or we only are seeing like part of the picture from like partial conversations. And so, there was a while where I was like, my parents just didn't teach me about money or whatever, but I think they just didn't realize that they needed to, maybe.
Right.
And I feel like I thought that they were maybe overusing credit cards when they really weren't, but just because of the pieces of conversation that I heard. So like for me, growing up, my perception as a child, because my dad would joke about it, would be like, oh, thank goodness we have the credit card, ha ha. He would like say jokes about it, whereas they were turning right around and paying it off. But I didn't know that. So in my head, I'm thinking, thank goodness for the credit card, because that's what you can pay all those extra things, like all the extra bills for, buy all
that's
the extra
how it
things you
translated
want.
to you. Yep.
So that's how it translated. And so I think that I had done an interview very early on, maybe a year ago, and my parents heard it and they were like, we're really kind of sad that you said that you know, made it sound like we were in debt, because we never really were. And I was like,
I'm sorry.
but I didn't know. I was like, I didn't know. Like, this was my perception growing up as like an elementary, middle school, and, you know, high school student of like, I don't know. I don't see what you do on the back end. I don't see you pay your bills. I don't know what's happening, but I hear things like, we're going on vacation. Thank goodness for the credit card. And to me, that translates to, we use the credit card for everything, right?
Yes. And I think that speaks volumes too to how clear the conversations need to be with your kids, or they fill in the missing pieces with their own story.
They fill in the blanks. Exactly. So it's like we use the credit card and I created that storyline. It's like for everything was my and it was like, no,
and never paid it off.
Right. You know, I didn't know what they were doing. So yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, you guys have been through a lot, to say the least. You have been through a lot. You have learned a lot, and how great that I feel like oftentimes going through some of the worst struggles in life is when people figure out what they are truly passionate about and what they want to do.
Yep.
And it's so amazing that you have been able to use that experience to help countless people improve their financial situations. Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
So great. So let's talk a little bit now about what it's like for people moving from an employee to an entrepreneur, and what can make that shift, that financial shift of getting paid in those two different ways. What can people do to prepare for that, or alleviate the stress, or however you want to word that? What are some tips that you might have for that?
Goodness gracious. Oh my gosh. This could be like a 5-hour conversation probably. I guess when I talk to clients, or when I have even friends in my, you know, entrepreneurial network and circles, I'll oftentimes hear people say a couple of things. One of them is that their business will never ever make enough to replace their full-time income, and so they don't really feel like they're all in, maybe, or like they really feel that it's worth pursuing, or, you know, they'll kind of like talk themselves out of being very successful at their business because they have this belief that it'll be impossible to replace their full-time income. So there's kind of like that side of the camp. Then there's the other side of the camp that's like, I'm sick of my job, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm jumping ship. And then they kind of look at the like, now I'm in debt, I had to take out loans, I had to take out credit cards. And so there's like kind of this divided camp of like never able to make the leap, or making the leap before they're truly ready. And I think that those really stem back into why so many small businesses fail, because they don't have the financial aspect figured out before they make those decisions, or before they really pursue or don't pursue the business, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. So how do people start to prepare for that? What are some things that they can do? Is it a certain amount that you think they should actually be putting away in savings? Should they start trying to adjust their spending? What are some things that you usually recommend that help people in that transition?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step is something that I do initially with all clients, and for anyone that's just really wanting to kind of figure out how to begin, is to get super dialed in on their finances right now. So really look at everything that they're spending, see if there's things that they're overspending on, if there's things that they're not really using and they're paying for that they can cut out, because ultimately, you know, as dialed in as you can get on your budget, that's going to give you more money to use to build that business, to use to grow it, to invest in yourself for education, or for buying new equipment or materials, or whatever those different things are. But if you don't know where that money's coming from because you're spending it all, like you are going to feel like you can never do it, or that you have to put it on credit cards or take out debt, which I really think it's sometimes, yes, you do that, but it's ideal to be able to figure out how to just pay for it as you go. So you never feel that panicky about your business, about the like, I need to make this happen or our family is going to suffer for it, right?
Right. And I think in the online space, especially for people running an online business, you see so many people posting like, I quit my job and I did a launch and I made $20,000 with 20 minutes of work and no client base. And all I used was fairy dust and glitter and my business took off. And you see all these stories out there. And I always laugh to myself because I always think, okay, you made 20,000. Was a bunch of that your tax return that you happen to get back the same week?
Right.
I mean, I just,
yes.
And I'm not saying that it can't ever happen. And I know some people have really big launches, but I think there's usually some other history behind it when they say their first launch was that huge one. They've either already made connections. I just think there's something else, something more, oftentimes there's something more going on than what their post may allude to.
Right.
But I think a lot of people see those. And I've even seen posts that say, if you don't quit your job, your business isn't going to succeed because you're not all in. You're not, and you know, it's, I think sometimes people write those things just to trigger people and elicit more engagement and things like that. But I always feel saddened a little bit when I see those posts because I think, well, guess what? If I was 25, not married, and I only had me to take care of and I could crash on a friend's couch, sure, I could jump all in if I wanted to. But when you have a spouse, a partner, children, a mortgage, if you screw those things up, no, it's a game changer for life. You don't want to have to file bankruptcy because you decided to jump all in into your business, but you had a mortgage that then you couldn't pay, or, you know, it just... I just think you have to take those posts with a grain of salt, but I think in the online space, you see a lot of that.
A lot.
Yes.
I mean, it's unfair. It's playing on people's emotions because, you know, when you do want to start a business, you so desperately are like, I want to do this. Like, this is my dream. I'm ready to make it happen. That person did it. And they said, if I leave my job, they'll show me how. And it becomes kind of this decision that's based out of fear or out of desperation or anxiety instead of a decision that's based out of confidence and out of, you know, knowing that it's the right thing to do. You're doing it kind of on the opposite side of that, right? So I try to really work with my clients to make sure that like the decisions that they're making around money aren't fear-based decisions, even though they say, oh, this is something I'm doing because I want something better. You don't need to decide that today, right? Like we need to look at your life and really make sure that this is a good decision for you before you like jump in emotionally triggered and spend a bunch of money that's going to make you even regret it more, you know?
Yes. Jenny shared, she said, I just canceled a payment on something. Yay, Jenny! And that was
I'm inspired.
That was so my husband and me a couple of years ago. And I'm going to date myself here because I'm hard pressed to think that there are any millennials that were probably in this situation, but we had not been able to cut the cord on cable. It was huge for us to finally cut the cord on cable. Woo-hoo! And
way to go.
Unfortunately, I did it about a week before March Madness started, and my husband was like, whoa, wait a minute.
What are you doing to me right now?
Like, you couldn't wait 2 weeks? No, I couldn't. I don't know.
You're like,
didn't
sorry.
realize that was coming up. Oops. But, now, you know, and it was scary for us at first because how are we going to watch sports and how are we going to watch, you know, we were just so used to that, but we were paying like $150 a month. And that wasn't, we didn't have any fancy bells or whistles. That was just like our basic cable. Like we didn't have any movie channels, you know, that was just pretty basic cable. Was $150 a month. So those payments, and I think sometimes when it's something that you've quote unquote always had in your life, sometimes those are
it seems necessary.
Yes, when it's not. And I think sometimes you need to take that step back and truly with objective eyes ask, like, why are we paying for this and do we really need it? Is there a cheaper alternative? Is there a better alternative? Can we live without it? Like cable.
Exactly.
Sorry, cable companies.
And I go through it. I mean, I go through that all the time with my clients, like literally like item by item by item that they're spending their money on and say like, you're overpaying for this. Like I can look easily and say, you should be paying at least $40 less a month on this one, this one, this one. Like we'll go through the list and it's like, they're, you know, sadly overpaying by hundreds of dollars for things that if they knew to shop around, they could be saving that money, but they just don't even know like what the right price is, right? Like there's so many different options. All these companies are changing prices all the time. They slowly, insurance companies and everything will like eke it up month by month or quarter by quarter. And before you know it, it's like $80 more than you remembered paying. So
Yes.
yeah, it's like you have to really pay attention and be on top of it.
That's interesting that you bring that up. I hadn't thought about that aspect before, that like you've worked with so many people, so you've seen what so many people are paying to know, oh, thanks, Jenny, go to sleep. It's 10 p.m. there. Yes,
Yeah,
go to
bye,
sleep, girl.
Jenny.
Thanks for joining us. But I never thought about that. So you can probably so quickly look and see that somebody is overpaying. Do you typically find that your clients have the best luck by shopping around and moving with a different company, or are people usually able to negotiate their monthly payments down with companies?
It depends on what it is. Typically, insurance, you need to change annually. Like most insurance companies, I recommend people shop around once a year, and in most cases, they end up switching because insurance companies just don't really negotiate their rates.
Yeah.
Cell phones, a lot of times I'll have people that will drop maybe from an unlimited plan to a 8 gig data plan because they're on Wi-Fi all the time, but they've been paying for all of these extra things. So they're paying for their iPad to be connected as a hotspot or something that they never use. Like there's all these extra things that people will pay for. Sometimes with cable or like DirecTV, things like that, you can negotiate for a lower rate. If you call and like threaten to leave them, sometimes they'll give you a discount for a little while. But usually it's, 6 months or maybe a year, and then it goes right back up again.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So do you have any advice that you typically give? So I've heard that for entrepreneurs, let me back up here a minute. I'm going back to when people are switching from employee to entrepreneur and going through that financial shift. So when you're an employee, everything is kind of doled out for you. This is being paid to the federal government. This is being paid to the state government. Here's going to your retirement accounts. Here's going to your insurance. They've done all that work for you. And once you switch to entrepreneurial, to self-employed, to that type of income, you're now responsible to take care of all of that. So I'm wondering what your advice is for how people typically manage that when they're shifting from employee to entrepreneur. Do you have any tips on that?
Definitely. I mean, I think one of the big things is insurance, right? People are always like hesitant to leave work because they're afraid to lose their benefits. If you're married and your spouse has benefits, that kind of changes it, but it makes it a little bit easier to switch onto their plan instead of yours. I mean, always to at least be aware of what that cost is, to research it before so that you're prepared for it. And it's not a big surprise if their plan costs a lot more than yours does or whatever. The other alternative is to research, what it would be to have your own insurance. So paying for independent insurance or going through a health share, which I recently did a bunch of research on myself. So those are, alternative options for entrepreneurs. But yeah, that's one big expense that you need to figure out because it's anywhere from $500 to $2,000 a month that you may have to cover. So you definitely want to do your research on that. Then the other thing is just, as far as planning for taxes and everything, I think the first step for anyone that's starting a business is they have to separate out their business expenses from personal. So having, 2 separate accounts, a business account, a personal account, knowing which bills you can pay out of the business and making sure that you really are, kind of streamlining that flow of money, right, from the business into personal. So if you have all of your bills and everything separated and you know that on the personal side of life, you might need $500 a month from your business to cover the expenses on that, every time you pull money from the business, it's a taxable transaction, right? So anytime that you're moving money from business into personal, that needs to be your trigger of, I need to set money aside for taxes when this happens. So,
So I'm curious
30% in a savings or
well, and that's what I was just going to say. I wondered if you agreed with this or if this makes you cringe. I have heard that is a very, very basic structure that when you start getting business income, at a very basic, you should set a third aside for taxes, a third you reinvest back into your business account, and a third you can pay yourself like into your personal savings. So does that make you cringe hearing that basic breakdown, or do you agree that makes you cringe?
I don't like that. I don't like that. I mean that is
very basic.
It's very basic. I mean, I generally will say, yeah, put 30% into a savings account for taxes. I think that's reasonable. When you're giving yourself a paycheck, though, we're not talking about revenues on the business. So I think what you're
Right.
saying is like revenues, put a third of revenues. Your business might not be profitable. Like,
Yes.
so to put a third of it away for taxes, if your business isn't profitable, you shouldn't really even be giving yourself a paycheck at that point, right? So,
Yeah.
it, yeah, I think that's definitely too basic of a breakdown. It's way too generalized, but anytime that you're giving yourself a paycheck, so transferring money from business into personal is considered a paycheck. 30% of whatever that amount is should go into a savings account for taxes. So, and if you take additional disbursements, so any other time you say, well, I've got money in business, I'm going to pull it over here, that needs to be your trigger to save for taxes. So if you're taking $1,000, you better put 333 away for taxes.
And if I can step up on my soapbox a minute, my biggest thing that I have preached to people that have asked me for my input is find an accountant immediately.
Yeah.
It is so much easier to sit down if you don't know all these ins and outs. And so, for example, like I feel pretty confident with money and my budget and our personal accounts. So I've always filed our own taxes. In this day and age, it's not like I'm spending hours over, you know, fill in the bubble, fill in the box sheets by hand anymore. So I've always done our personal taxes. But once I launched my business, I was kind of hands off about it, where I thought, I don't know all the business rules with taxes. And it felt a little overwhelming to me. And I know there are plenty of people out there that still file their own taxes, but I felt so much better about just going to an accountant. And it doesn't mean you have to spend thousands of dollars on an accountant. I did find a very reasonable, good one near me, but then I just knew everything was done how it should be done. I had that confidence in her, and then I didn't have to worry about, oh, what if I didn't, you know, how much should I be putting aside, and did I not put enough aside? And if you do just sit down with a professional, it can really alleviate some of that stress.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, you can even do like a pre-tax consultation with them. And generally they're free or like very inexpensive, just to give you the overview and guidelines of like, what should you be planning to put away for taxes? Do you need to submit quarterly, or are you okay to wait until it's time to file? Like, just to give you some of that basic stuff, like what things should you deduct, right? What should be on the business side and what should be on the personal side? So I think it is important just to have those conversations. And if you don't know them yourselves, then yes, go and talk to an accountant. I mean, I can help kind of set that up, but obviously I'm not an accountant either. I don't know like all of the details that go into filing taxes. I think I know enough to be dangerous, but
yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, it's been so amazing to have you on. Was there anything else that you wanted to wrap up saying before we get to the top 2 tips? Was there anything else you wanted to finish saying about preparing financially for that shift from employee to entrepreneur?
I think obviously from a financial standpoint, I really encourage you to, you know, dial in on expenses, try to be putting money aside every month, so that you can start to plan for your business, right? It might not happen overnight, but to be saving some, putting some aside, it gives you so much fulfillment to say like, I can go buy this now, or I can invest in my business because I have money set aside for it. It makes it much easier to start to take that leap. So I think that's like from the financial standpoint, a really, really important aspect of making this transition between the two. From a mental aspect, I think that it's so important to kind of start to shift your perspective on your full-time job. You know, for those of us that have made the transition, or for anyone that's going through it right now, it can be a bit of torture to go to work every day, right? Like it's a little bit painful when you know, like, this is not what I'm meant to be doing. I have really big dreams, and I have a bigger service to, you know, to fulfill in my life, and more gifts that I can offer to the world than what I'm doing sitting here at work. And it can be so frustrating and demoralizing and exhausting. And I think that it's really important to try to change your perspective around it as much as possible, to have some appreciation for the fact that that job that you might hate so much is going to be what funds your business, right?
Yes.
So to look at it for the income stream that it provides, for the stability that it provides while you're making the transition, and to learn to have some appreciation for it, and to say, like, I'm here right now, and because I'm here, I don't have to go into debt when I start my business.
I love that. And I think too that just to add on a little bit to that, I think that especially in the coaching area, there can be some pressure about, there's a fine line balance to me between helping a client look at their finances to see if they can really afford a program with me and bullying them into trying to put it on a credit card. And I always cringe when I see people say, like, if your clients aren't willing to put it on credit card, then they don't really want to work with you, because if they really want to work with you, they'll do anything in their power to find the money. And I'm so not comfortable with that. That is not how I roll. I would never pressure anybody to put something on a credit card or anything like that that they're not comfortable doing. But I think there is this.
Right.
So I feel like too, as somebody looking to start a business, and if they are looking for outside help, whether it's with a business coach, social media, whatever it might be, like, you do also have to stand your own ground, because if somebody tries to start pushing you, saying that, like,
Right.
your business is here and I'm going to take you here, but you need to put $30,000 on a credit card and work with me, and if you're not willing to do that, then you're not going to be successful and you're not committed to your business. You need to be able to make sure that you're confident enough in yourself that you can say no. Like, that's not how I'm going to be. Like, I'm personally very proud of proud of myself that I have started my business debt free. I have set aside all of the money to launch my business, and it does take away all of that stress. And yeah, there are definitely people that I would love to work with, but I don't have the cash flow to do it right now. And I'm not going to just run out and put it on a credit card to make it happen right now. So, but I think it can be an awkward conversation when you feel like this person that you look up to so much is telling you to put it on a credit card and telling you that they can change your life and telling you that, you're going to make 6 figures in 3 months, or, whatever craziness they might throw at you.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some validity to it sometimes. Like, as we're getting into the top 2 tips, one of my top tips is hiring a coach. Like, as starting out as a new business person, like, hiring someone that had walked the road before me was the best money that I ever spent. So I definitely think, like, when a coach is saying this is going to propel your business, it's going to change it, it is. I mean, most likely, depending on the coach and their experience and their credibility, right?
Let's hope they're the right coach.
Yeah.
And trust me,
exactly.
I am all for coaches. I am a coach. I love coaches.
Yes.
I think they provide so much value. I just think some of them start to cross that line of not just saying, like, let's look at all your options, but they start to cross that line of playing on those fears again of, you're not going to be successful unless you put this on a credit card. So I think that if you can set aside the money to hire your coach, I think that is definitely the ideal way to go, and that you just can't let anybody bully you into, in the financial situation that you were in. You really didn't have another choice at that point but to put that money on a credit card to hire that first financial coach. But if there is another way around it, and like my biggest thing is just don't let anybody bully you into putting it on a credit card, because that person will still be there in a few months if that's what you need to save the money for it instead of putting it on a card.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I agree with that completely.
Yes, coaching though.
Yeah, that was one of my tips.
Yes, it is a game changer for people. And there's still, I feel like, this little bit of cloud of mystery for people around coaching. I've encountered a lot of people that still don't really understand what a coach is. And I think part of that is because there are so many different types of coaches out there that you could even talk to, 3 different business coaches, and they're going to run their programs very differently, and what they focus on may be very different. I feel like that's one of the big perks of people going into coaching, is that they can really offer what their strengths and their gifts are that are going to help their clients. So I feel like, as somebody who may be shopping for a coach, you really, really have to know what it is that you're looking for to find that right person, because not all offerings are going to be the same.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You definitely have to know yourself, know how you're going to learn the best, what sort of motivation you need, what kind of accountability you need, and to definitely do your due diligence in interviewing a coach to make sure that they're going to offer the kind of support that you need to be successful. Because there's a lot, like you said, so many different programs, so many different things available out there. And it can be either exactly what you need or something that's not going to move you forward at all. So,
Yes. Yes, it's so important to do your research. And there might even be some coaches that have everything you need, but their programs are built out so that you're also paying for all these things that you don't need. And then you really have to evaluate, is that still really the right person for me? Because I may be paying for things that are built into their program that, you know, you don't currently need. So it's important to look at all aspects of their program too. So I love that. What is your other tip? I'm excited to hear your other tip.
My second tip is to just start. Like, we preach this all the time to our clients, and we coach other financial coaches. And the number one thing that we say is just to start doing something. So it's all about messy action. Like, that's our phrase that we tell everyone, messy action. Like, just do something. Like, it does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look just right. You don't have to have all the branding and the colors figured out. Like, you just need to start doing something, right? There's so many times where we, I mean, we so often, can get ourselves so wrapped up in the learning or the analyzing or the figuring it out or the planning for it. And we might go 3 years down the road planning to start this business. And we've never actually talked to someone about it or never, so it's like, you have to just start doing, and then the rest you have to figure out as you do it, right? So you put your offer out there, you talk to someone about it, or you kind of start to make those leaps. And then, as a client says, oh, sure, I'm interested. Then you figure out your program. Then you put it all together. But, it's like, don't keep wasting time waiting for everything to be perfect and ready to start, because it's never going to be perfect. I mean, everyone who owns a business is always continually evolving it and finding new ways they can do their business and how they can evolve it. So nothing's ever going to be perfect. Nothing's ever going to be just right and ready to go. So if you really want to start a business, just do it.
I love that, love that, love that. I say that all the time. And for some reason, those first steps do feel like the hardest steps. And I think a lot of new entrepreneurs put this pressure on themselves, like, but if it doesn't look perfect, everybody's going to tell me I'm not good at this and I can't do it and I shouldn't be out there.
Right.
And I think you just need to take a step back and really focus on just how you're helping people and just start trying to connect. Because like you said, you could get 3 years down the road and you've built this beautiful business that nobody is going to buy anything from.
Right. Yeah. And I mean,
I love
thing
it.
is, like, people aren't going to say it's not beautiful or whatever, but there's something really great to be learned in our failures and in the things that we can learn to improve on and the things that we get feedback about. And so it's like, just putting something out there allows you to start to get feedback so that you can fine tune it and tweak it in the direction that your clients want, your customers want, if you're doing it all for yourself, it might be something that's completely out of line with what the market actually wants from you, right? So just start with something and then be open to receiving the feedback and being able to change and adapt along the way.
And I think too, making sure that you realize that feedback may be that nobody responds to it. And then that whatever it is you put out there, it wasn't connecting with people. So it's important that you don't just throw in the towel and say, see, I'm not a good entrepreneur and nobody responded to this. It just means you need to think about what your messaging was and try to tweak it, try something different. Maybe you're talking to the wrong people or, whatever it might be. But I think a lot of people have this fear that they'll look like a failure if they don't get a lot of engagement, especially if they're like putting something out online for the masses to see. And I think it's just, you need to kind of keep your thick skin and realize that every opportunity is a learning opportunity. And if something didn't work, then you just learned what didn't work. Uh-oh, can you hear me, Jill? You're frozen. I lost you. All right. Well, that may have been an abrupt end to Girls Talk Business. At least we got Jill's top 2 tips out. I'm going to give it a second here and see if she comes back on. I am so excited that Jill was able to join today. And I hope that if you're catching this, I hope you'll... Oh, I can bring you back on, Jill. We're all right. I'm inviting you back. That's so funny. Also,
I'm
I'm like,
sorry.
and you're frozen.
I know. I was like, what just happened? Oh no.
Oh my gosh. I had that on one of the first lives that I ever did. My mom started calling and I was feverishly like, end call, end call.
I know. I was like, how do I stop it?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I am so glad that you were able to join me today. If anybody catches the replay, I hope you will drop a comment. Let us know that you caught the replay.
Yes.
Let us know where you're watching from. Share with us what your financial journey has been like, or if you've already made that shift from employee to entrepreneur. Maybe you have some additional tips that you learned from your personal journey to share with us. And Jill, I cannot thank you enough. And I'm so glad we finally got to do a live together.
I know. Yay, yay, yay. It's been so great. I was looking forward to this for months. So
I know, me too. And then soon I'll just have to start planning that trip over to visit you.
I know.
Oh no, I think Jill's getting another phone call. I bet whoever she put into voicemail is calling her back now. Well, we were wrapping up Girls Talk Business. Oh, hello, Narika. You caught the tail end. I'm so happy. I love seeing your smiling face when you are able to pop on the lives. Jill, thank you so much. And I am excited for everybody that was able to join us. And I'm excited for Girls Talk Business next week again at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time Zone. Thank you, everybody that if you have anything that you want to add to the conversation, drop the comments. I will add Jill's social media links onto the final saved video. And I would love to hear about your journey. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.